Hello, and welcome to Film Rant. This week we review Pixar's second movie of the year, The Good Dinosaur, directed by Peter Sohn. He's no stranger to the Pixar collection, having provided the voices of Emil from Ratatouille, various roles in The Incredibles, and Squishy in Monsters University. However, this is his Pixar directional debut, having only directed one film in his career. So, as we've already had one stellar Pixar movie this year, Inside Out, the only movie so far to receive a 5-star review from me, is The Good Dinosaur enough to steal Inside Out's thunder? As usual, this review will contain spoilers, so don't become a Tyrannosaurus wreck if you skip ahead and have something spoiled for you. Yes, that pun was absolutely disgusting. So let's start with Arlo, our main protagonist. We first meet him as he hatches from his egg, and immediately he appears timid and a bit of an outcast. He's an Apatosaurus, one of the largest herbivores to exist in the age of the dinosaurs. As he's a lot smaller than his family members, he very understandably feels left out and a little irregular. However, this doesn't seem to stop him wanting to fill his potential. He isn't great at doing what his father, mother, sister and brother do, but he's determined to get his father's seal of approval, which happens to literally be a big paw print on a tower made of stone. Most of the film focuses on Arlo proving himself somewhat worthy enough to literally make his mark on the world. Only he can't prove himself the same way his family did, as he can't do the same things they do, so he searches for different ways to make his mark. Ultimately, the movie is about Arlo overcoming his fears and not necessarily becoming the creature he's expected to be, but more using the skills he does have to become a fully functioning supporting member of the family. This setup works, but I would make some changes to Arlo to maybe make this plotline have a little more impact. Arlo is a huge wimp. He's not very strong and he's scared of literally everything. The poor lad just can't seem to get anything right. Now when I see this kind of behaviour on an Apatosaurus, it sort of fits. His father is big and strong and doesn't seem scared of anything, but as these guys are herbivores, I'm inclined to think that they would be somewhat scared of predators, regardless of their massive stature. That leads me to think that Arlo may have perhaps worked better had he been a T-Rex or another predator. If Arlo was born a T-Rex and didn't want to kill anything or found himself scared of everything, that would have emphasised his distance from the family even more. Ultimately, the plot would still be the same. Arlo doesn't need to be a vicious killer to be the T-Rex his family expects him to be, but if he uses the skills he does have to support his family, that's all I could ask for. I just feel that if he was a T-Rex, the story would be a lot more symbolic. I also don't like his voice. I really didn't like that he had the voice of a child for the entire movie. It fits the character and plot, but I would have just preferred a teenager or a young adult voice to a whiny kid. And Pixar did it first, as they hired Lucas Neff to voice Arlo but changed due to a revamp of the film, but that's just a personal preference. One of the absolute best characters in the movie is Forrest Woodbush, voiced by director Peter Sohn himself. Woodbush is only in the movie for about 5 minutes, but he has arguably the best comedy scene in the whole movie. He's a Styracosaurus who also has unreasonable fears. The only difference is, he has amassed a vicious army of local critters who live on his horns. Some of the names he has given his collection of Avengers are fantastic.
This is Fury. He protects me from the creatures that crawl in the night. This is Destructor. She protects me from mosquitoes. This is Dream Crusher. He protects me from having unrealistic goals. And this is Debbie. Yes, we need him.
This juxtaposition of characters with fierce names is brilliant in its own right, but to chuck in a bird called Debbie at the end added another great joke. The names are almost Jake Peralta action hero-esque and I love them.
Deathblade, Sidewinder, it's go time.
Roger that, wet blanket.
No, from now on, call me Velvet Thunder.
Okay.
Spot is Arlo's arch-enemy and best friend. At first, Arlo sees him as the pest that keeps stealing his food and eventually leads to the death of his father. However, Spot saves Arlo from the wilderness multiple times after his father's death, and Arlo comes to realise that it wasn't really Spot's fault. The two then become best of friends. One of the most interesting things about Spot is that although he's an early human, he acts a lot like Arlo's dog. Arlo acts more human than Spot. I thought this role reversal was an interesting take on alternate history. What if the dinosaurs became as intelligent as we are and they were the dominant species? Ultimately, their relationship is the same as a man and his dog, except instead of the dog being man's best friend, man is dinosaur's best friend. Spot is mute throughout the film and we don't learn that much about him other than he lost his family. He is absolutely fearless though, so he's exactly the friend Arlo needs. Spot teaches Arlo that he can do so much more than he thinks. Spot is a good character, but there's really not much to talk about with him. Along their journey, Arlo and Spot run into a family of T-Rexes. They are basically cowboys of the dinosaur world. They have a ranch filled with a herd of longhorn. Their job is to make sure other predators don't attack their herd. Nash and Ramsey are brother and sister, and they are very friendly and willing to help those in need, which is very uncharacteristic of a T-Rex. So at least I'm getting some sort of a character flip that I wanted with Arlo. Butch is their father, played by Sam Elliott. Butch is a seasoned ranch veteran and likes to give Ramsey and Nash hard challenges so they become better at what they do. He also does this to Arlo, which helps him deal with the predators better. When Butch smiles, his teeth resemble the moustache of his actor, Sam Elliott. All the T-Rexes have Southern American accents, which I think suits the T-Rexes really well, in a hilarious way. I love their dialogue and voice casting. Great work from Pixar there. A nice little touch they also add is that when they run, they move as if they are riding a horse. I thought that it was a very subtle way to show how they're the cowboys of the dinosaur age. Now let's get into the script. Firstly, I want to say that on the surface, The Good Dinosaur is sort of a modernised, slightly dumbed down version of The Lion King, which is the best Disney classic. Now, I'm sure many of you will comment outrage at this claim and say Beauty and the Beast or Bambi is better, but nah, it's all about The Lion King, man. The Good Dinosaur's plot isn't exactly the same by any means, but the films share notable similarities. There's a very obvious one. The protagonist loses his icon, his rock, his father. In The Lion King, Mufasa falls into a stampede thanks to Scar and is swept away by the animals. In The Good Dinosaur, Arlo's dad saves him from a flash flood and realises he can't get out of the way in time. He is also swept away, only this time by water and not animals. Then there's the symbol of home. In The Lion King, the film shows the shot of High Rock a lot. It is the symbol to Simba that he is in his kingdom. That's his throne, his pedestal, and all he can see in the light is his. In The Good Dinosaur, the film keeps showing us the shot of Clawed Tooth Mountain, at the foot of which is Arlo's family and his farm. So both movies use a towering rock formation to symbolise home. The villains are also the same. There is one main group of villains in The Lion King, and that is the three hyenas who do Scar's bidding. In The Good Dinosaur, there is the trio of pterodactyls that try to attack Arlo and Spot. Both groups consist of an alpha male, a female, and a male who's so dumb that it pretty much proves that evolution can go in reverse. There's also the whole make your mark symbolism in both films. In The Lion King, we see the marking of Simba. By the end of the movie, that lion cub marking gets a mane, showing that he has become the leader, or indeed king, of High Rock. In The Good Dinosaur, it is the footprint on the stone tower. It is used slightly differently, but ultimately the meaning of it is the same. When Arlo finally gets to make his mark, he is showing he is capable of supporting his family and doing right by them. He's not becoming a leader, but he's becoming what was expected of him, the same as Simba did. Finally, a much more obvious plotline is that in both movies the protagonist finds themselves a long way from home and encounter unlikely friends that help them through the harsh wilderness. This is common in Disney or Pixar movies though. I mean, Toy Story, Toy Story 2 and Finding Nemo all have this plotline. So yeah, while The Good Dinosaur isn't really a direct remake of The Lion King, they both share similar motifs and plotlines. Now, one thing I can nearly always say about Pixar movies is that they make me cry like Matthew McConaughey. However, I am disappointed to say that this time I didn't leave the cinema with my eyes dripping like a fucked fridge. Don't get me wrong, The Good Dinosaur has its emotional moments, but none quite push me over that threshold. There's a scene where Arlo explains to Spot that his dad died with the use of sticks. He stabs 5 sticks into the ground and topples the tallest one over. Spot then places 3 sticks into the ground and topples over the 2 tallest ones. It was a good emotional moment, but I sort of knew he was going to do that. It still had the desired effect, but it wasn't enough to make me sob like a little bitch. When we get towards the end, Spot has the opportunity to join another human family. He really wants to, but doesn't want to leave Arlo. Arlo pushes him towards the family and ushers him away. Arlo knows Spot will be better off with the family, and really, Arlo doesn't need him anymore. They love each other, as a man and dog would, so it's as if Arlo is giving up his pet for adoption. It's heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time. There was a little kid behind me in the cinema who I could hear absolutely sobbing his heart out at this moment. Usually, at the end of Pixar movies, there's a 23-year-old man sitting in there sobbing his heart out, who was totally not me, by the way. Following on from Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur has absolutely no emotion in comparison. It's not bad, but Inside Out just broke me as a person. The movie starts really slow. I mean, things happen, but it's hard to see any real direction. It was hard to see what the plot was for the first 40 minutes or so. Once Arlo and Spot become accustomed to one another and start adventuring, the movie gets a lot more interesting. They meet new characters, encounter enemies, and discover new locales. It comes around the introduction of Forrest Woodbush. That guy just injected some much needed comedy and got Arlo and Spot moving properly. From then on, the film is a breeze to watch and it is filled with great funny characters and villains. One thing it doesn't have though is an overall main villain. As I said earlier, the Lion King has the 3 hyenas, but they are all working for Scar, the murderer of Simba's dad and overall dickhead of the Lion King story. I felt that Good Dinosaur needed someone like this. Arlo and Spot run into the trio of pterodactyls and a group of 4 velociraptors. The raptors are dealt with almost immediately as they are the guys trying to attack the herd of longhorns the T-Rexes were protecting. The pterodactyls have 2 battles with Arlo and Spot, which is perfectly fine, but I would have just preferred it if, like in The Lion King, they were grunts for a larger bird or predator. It would have just added another plot strand and tone that would have opened up the movie a little bit more. The Good Dinosaur seems very direct with minimal plot elements, which is understandable as it's a kids film, but by Pixar standards its plot is fairly weak. A nice directional choice at the start comes in the immediate understanding of the characters. The film opens with 2 dinosaurs, Ida and Henry, awaiting their 3 eggs to hatch. 2 eggs are the same size, and the final egg is much larger. The first egg to hatch is Libby. Even without dialogue, we understand her character in 5 seconds. She leaps out of the egg and runs round her parents and cuddles into her mother. The second egg hatches, and again, we understand Buck immediately. He charges out of the egg and starts breaking things in the barn. We know he's going to be the aggressive, butch male of the group. When the final egg hatches, Ida and Henry are expecting a much larger child than Libby or Buck, given the size of the egg. But what emerges is Arlo, the much smaller dinosaur. I think there's more to the big egg idea than a simple bait and switch. I see the egg as symbolism for Arlo's character. Whereas the other 2 are shown immediately via their actions, Arlo's egg symbolises him as a character. He may be small and timid, but he has a big personality, a big heart, and is destined for big things. Just because he's not big in stature does not mean he's not a big person. It shows Arlo's character through actions too, as he timidly stumbles out of his egg and looks wide-eyed at his family, but the egg is just as telling of his character as his actions. There's some comedy in The Good Dinosaur. As I've mentioned, I think Forrest Woodbush and the T-Rex family are hilarious, but other than that there isn't too much. There's a few visual gags with Arlo and Spot, but they're few and far between. A children's movie with a fairly stretched and sparse plot needs comedy to fill the gaps, but The Good Dinosaur just doesn't include enough to make the time pass quickly. The movie is 93 minutes long, and to be honest, it feels like it. It's arguably the least funny and least engrossing Pixar movie, at least I suspect to a lot of people. I sort of get the impression the movie was left in development hell for a little bit. A change of director often indicates that, and I think some of the main ideas behind it got lost in translation. It feels like Pixar rushed to get this out, rather than just completely wiping the slate clean and starting again to come out with a more refined, polished story. This year is the first year ever Pixar have released 2 films in 1 year, and I think that could also signify that The Good Dinosaur has had issues. It's not been marketed well, and compared to Inside Out, it just falls short. Technically, I can say without doubt that The Good Dinosaur is the prettiest Pixar movie to date. The animation is absolutely sublime. It's pretty much photorealistic. The way they've done water, which is a big part of the movie, is nothing short of astonishing. The lush vistas of the dinosaur world and the towering mountains in the background blend to make some wonderful settings. Arlo and Spot's movements and lip syncing are great, and the whole world just looks alive. Compare what this looks like to, say, The Incredibles, which released just over 10 years ago. There's a big difference, and imagine what we'll be seeing in another 10 years. There'll probably become a time when we don't even use live action anymore, because animation can achieve real life imagery. DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, Marion Cotillard, and Matthew McConaughey could possibly be doing voice roles only in the future. Hey, it's a long shot. I don't think there's any real reason to give up live action altogether other than health and safety and budget, but it's all too possible. To sum up, The Good Dinosaur is a perfectly enjoyable half remake of The Lion King. It is arguably one of Pixar's weakest movies, and if they had just smoothed out the edges and flattened out the bumps, it could have been great. The comedy is few and far between, and the story takes a while to get going. The characters that do appear are all great, but they just take too long to come into the story and are not in it long enough. The emotion in the movie is a lot less than you'd expect from a Pixar movie too, and if this came out next year or last year, I'd probably give it a lot more praise, but as it has been released in the shadow of Inside Out, it just feels like a much weaker film. If you have kids, take them to see it, they'll love it. If you don't, I'd still say give it a go. It's perfectly enjoyable, it just doesn't have the depth of philosophical idea exploration other Pixar movies have. The Good Dinosaur gets 3.5 frames out of 5. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Film Rant.
I'm done being scared.
If you ain't scared, you ain't alive.